My name's Luigi. Hello, my name's Luigi.
Hey, and we're here at Midtown Comics. It's 11:43, and we're both out here for the Doomsday release. So, what brought you out here tonight?
Well, I mean, obviously Doomsday Clock is going to be one of the biggest stories in the history of comic books, just for a variety of reasons, ranging from how they are fixing the New 52 throughout all of Rebirth, while also paying homage and playing janitor with the post-crisis, pre-Flashpoint universe. And that's really what a lot of this has been about. It's been restoring hope and happiness and love to the DC Universe in a way that is constantly combating encroaching grittiness and realism and cynicism in comic books. I mean, even you can just look no further than the launch of the New 52, which saw marriages and relationships and entire characters wiped away. And Rebirth launched with Aquaman proposing. You know, Lois Lane and Superman established as a couple within the universe. And so it's really a return to form that I feel like DC has been missing the past couple of years. And I feel like Doomsday Clock is the next evolutionary step of that, where they're actually combating, or I'm hoping that the event is going to be more ideological in nature rather than just fisticuffs, you know, between Superman and Dr. Manhattan. I'm hoping it doesn't come down just to fists. You know, I'm hoping it's more of a dialogue.
But you wouldn't be against seeing a Superman versus Dr. Manhattan fight?
I wouldn't be against it, but I just feel like it would be diminishing returns. Like I feel like it would cheapen the gravitas of what both of those characters mean. Because ultimately, well, for the record, I don't really like The Watchmen. It's actually one of my least favorite stories.
Okay.
Moore is not a favorite writer of mine. I can count on one hand, and on that half of a hand, my favorite stories by Moore. Swamp Thing, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, and yeah, that's it. Like, I really don't like him as a writer. I'm very firmly in that camp of there are two types of comic book fans: the people who like Morrison and the people who like Moore.
Okay.
And I am definitely more on the Morrison side of things when it comes to stories and characters. I'm not going to say that his stories aren't well written. It's just that they aren't for me. They're very well written, and the themes and tones that they use are masterful in that. There are very few slip-ups, and really the only thing I can think of is him admitting himself, Moore that is, that he didn't fully understand the characters when he was writing The Killing Joke. And if he had a second chance, he would go back and change some things about how certain characters were written.
If I remember correctly, just to interject, The Killing Joke was never meant to be a canon story?
No, it was never.
So
Yeah.
they allowed Moore to
Yeah.
take that departure and do these things,
Yeah.
and then they decided to make it canon.
And then it didn't gel, and that's really where that's coming from. It's like him saying that it's like, this doesn't represent the characters as they actually should have been. And I feel like it really stuck, and I feel like it did a lot for characters like Barbara Gordon, who were pretty much, about to be abandoned and stuck in limbo. They were able to run with it and invent more past that for her as Oracle, which was, I think, when she shined the most. However, it's made very repeatedly clear that that wasn't Moore. That was other people at DC who were in charge of those decisions. But more importantly, just looking at the world of the Watchmen, it is encroached by the cynicism that has destroyed that universe. I mean, there's no hope there. There's nothing. They have these heroes. They have a man who could literally alter the universe, and it's nothing but fear. You know, there's no hope. What love there is shallow and surface level at the very least when you look at it. And so, to me, this intrusion of Dr. Manhattan into the DC universe is really a narrative analogy for how the cynicism of the modern day, where is hope gone, has crept into this medium and has consumed some of its characters, leading them down some really frightening roads. I mean, just look at Captain America, who was a Nazi this year, So, I mean, you don't really need anything other than just that frame of reference for understanding why Superman, the beacon of hope and a better tomorrow, going up against someone like the pinnacle character from this cynical universe, is so important.
Very well said. Very well said. So let's fast forward. It's 11 months later. We're coming to the last issue. What for you would need to happen in order for you to feel that this was, one, a successful series, and two, a pleasurable read for yourself?
Well, I think, like, just going off of where I would hope it would end, is that I would really hope that Superman shows Dr. Manhattan that, the world is a nasty place. It is a nasty place. And, in fact, I think the best thing I can quote, well, to the best of my knowledge, recall, is a quote from Doctor Who. And it's the episode from Matt Smith's first season as the 11th Doctor, where he meets Vincent Van Gogh. And he's talking to Vincent, and he's talking to Amy. And it's well after Amy thinks she made a difference by telling Vincent and showing Vincent what his life and his works had amounted to, and that he wasn't worthless. She brings him to the future, and he shows him the gallery of all of his art. And it's this very powerful, very moving scene where this man who is horribly depressed, who is borderline bipolar, who goes through life as an alcoholic, barely making it by, with people thinking that his work is nothing and awful, is revered as one of the greatest artists of all time. And so she shows him this gallery, and she expects to come back to the future after returning him to the past, expecting more paintings from him, a reinvigorated life where he had never taken his own life. Except that doesn't happen. And he still ends up killing himself, because that's not how the world works for people who are clinically depressed. It's a psychological issue. It doesn't just go away because you show someone that, yes, people do care about you. It's an ongoing battle, which is, side note, one of the reasons why Humphrey's work on Green Lanterns is so great, and his depiction of Jessica dealing with her PTSD and depression and that behavior, and how it's something that is still encroaching on her life constantly. It's something that she has to continually deal with. It's not something that just went away because one character gave her a speech, or because she gave a rousing speech about heroism or bravery, and it was never touched on again. It's something that is still part of her life. And so, she comes back and she's all upset about how nothing matters, and how even though she showed Vincent that people revered him, that nothing matters. And the Doctor gives her a very powerful quote, and that is, life is a pile of good things and bad things, and the good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa, the bad things don't always spoil the good things. And so you have the story like we just got, the Oz effect, where it's Jor-El being thrust into a life that is diametrically opposed to the life that he gave to Cal, a loving family life of hope and freedom, and the quintessential American ideal, living with Ma and Pa on the Kent farm. And he was thrust into the middle of a war-torn region where people betrayed each other for scraps of bread, killed families, child soldiers, all that awful, awful portions of our humanity. And it showed him that the world wasn't good. And I think it's a very important ideological discussion to have, where you realize that, yes, there are places in the world still like that today. Children being sold into slavery, people still dying of preventable diseases, horrible, horrible mass murders, and just intolerance running amok nowadays, especially 2017. It's been a rough year. And I think it's important for Superman to show Manhattan that even though those things are there, the most powerful human aspect is our perseverance. It's our ability to pull through no matter what, and it's the ability to continually evolve and find the silver lining. And to really close on that notion, for one thing, I'm going to drop another quote from Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers himself. And it's his quote about whenever there's a disaster, whenever there's a tragedy, it's always look for the people helping. Because even in the worst tragedy imaginable, there will always be someone there helping. And that, to me, is Superman. And so I hope at the very end we'll be getting that type of lesson being shown to Dr. Manhattan and him internalizing that. And honestly, I would prefer it if he left and went back to his universe, but I don't really know. I'm not, the maestro here,
Hey, very insightful, very insightful. Okay. All right, so it is late in New York City at Midtown Comics, and we're here. There's a bunch of people here. It's packed, all for the Doomsday Clock release, and we're talking with Jason from Midtown Comics. How you doing this early morning?
I'm used to it. We are usually here, just not with customers. So we're usually packing out the books at this time.
Okay, so what was the thrust behind this release, and did you expect this type of turnout?
I mean, they have been doing this since DC Rebirth. They've taken to doing the midnight releases. This is the biggest of the three, with Metal being probably the second biggest. Actually, no. Rebirth was definitely the biggest because we had Jeff Johns here doing the signing. But Metal was not anywhere near as crazy as this is. This is the biggest crowd that we've gotten, probably.
Why do you think so? This is...
I think this is going to be a huge story when it's finished. Metal is like the fun story,
Yeah,
but
Metal's good.
yeah.
Does the next part come out tomorrow?
I don't know. No, all the books are out, so. So Doomsday Clock, I think, is just going to be an iconic story, and it's the first time that the Watchmen universe has been touched since Alan Moore wrote it. So.
Right, I noticed there's no... One of the things that I think is a good thrust or a good sign of the strength behind the story is there's no signing. To be honest, in comparison with the variant covers, this is light.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just 4 covers is minimal for a big event book like this.
Okay, so, sales are one thing, but which would you guys prefer to see? Like a really dynamite story that keeps people coming back and it's more printings, or just, blow your mind sales? Or both?
I mean, the ideal would be both. I think comics right now has the problem of number ones are what's selling the market, but it doesn't necessarily lead to a great story. I am hoping with this one that it will lead to a great story, because as the comic book fan, that's what you want. You don't want just bestsellers. I'm sure my bosses want the bestsellers because we want to sell out, but as the fan, yes, absolutely, you want a good story.
No, since I'm here with Superman homepage, I have to ask the question, since Superman versus Dr. Manhattan, this has been a question that has been bandied about on the internet much more than I ever thought would actually happen.
Right.
Who would win in a... I think it's moronic at this point who would win in a fight, but
You guys didn't
I'll
pull
ask
out
you.
any of the new Marvel comics for the week, right?
No.
There's only the Doomsday thing.
Who wins?
I think for sure Dr. Manhattan wins.
Really?
Yes.
Why? I'm always of the
Superman
opposing...
has the superhuman strength and everything, but Dr. Manhattan has the godlike power.
He still has human weakness.
What if I were to tell you that there is nothing that Dr. Manhattan could try on Superman that other people haven't tried and it's failed for them? What's he going to do differently? Superman, they've tried to wipe him from existence, didn't work. Just recently in Superman Rebirth, they tried to do that, didn't work. You can't disintegrate him. You can't do any of these things. So why does everyone believe he's going to win when Superman has shown such resilience to these things?
You kind of got to think Dr. Manhattan doesn't want to do it. He's not the bad guy trying to be the bad guy killing the good guy. Mm-hmm. He's a force of nature. That's all.
And Superman's
an alien who has some superpowers, but he's not a force of nature.
I'm not too sure about that one. I'm not too sure about that, but I like the answer.
I don't think that's how it's going to end, because then you can't have the other Superman story. Superman's not going to die.
Right.
Or the main Justice League. It's always going to be the D-listers.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks again for your time. Of course. I hope you guys have a really great night out here. I've got to go to work in the morning,
Was it
so
really
I'm
worth
going to
it?
do a little bit more around.
Oh,
So
yeah,
thank you again for your
definitely.
time. Thanks.
Of course.
2-3 years ago. All right, so we're here at Midtown Comics, getting another quick interview in here. So what's in comparison to the other crowds, what's this crowd like for you?
It's a little bit heavy. Yeah, it's a lot.
Were you expecting this many people?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I know everybody's busy over here, and since I'm from Superman homepage, I'll just ask you the softball question. Who wins in that classic? Who wins in that classic face-to-face match-off? Superman or Dr. Manhattan? If they have to go mano a mano, I know it's boring, but
Dr. Manhattan.
why?
Where's the start of the line?
Back of the line's right over here. Back of round.
Yeah. If I were to tell you that every single possible thing that Dr. Manhattan could do in order to defeat Superman, if I were to tell you that every single thing that Dr. Manhattan could try to attempt against Superman, everybody else has already done and failed, would you still think that Dr. Manhattan would win in a fight against Superman?
Yeah, because they'll write it that way.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. All right, so it's early morning here, Midtown Comics, New York City. And I'm with, let everybody know who you guys are.
My name's Johan Rosario.
John Vargas.
All right, what brings you guys out here in the early morning?
Doomsday.
Doomsday Clock, yeah.
Why? Why Doomsday Clock? Why would you, why not just wait until, when it comes out? There's plenty of copies. Why come out here for be one of the first people out here? What's the push on the story that you want to be here now?
Well, it's a lot of interweaving stories. I mean, for starters, the Doomsday Clock is picking up, over 30 years after the Watchmen series, and then you've got a couple of series that have gone before, like Rebirth, and with Batman and Flash, and then you've got Action Comics with Superman right now. So as soon as I finished reading the latest Action Comics, I was already like, all right, that's it. I got to get on this. It was just huge.
Also, I just gotta make sure I gotta get a copy. I don't know if these black and white ones are gonna just stop. First of all, I just like black and white. And second, Watchmen, the first one's gonna be a pretty tough act to follow. So I just want to see where this goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Alan Moore, he said he was fine with it, but he said he'd never read it.
He's fine with it?
He's fine with it, but he'd never read it. So
yeah, I understand why though.
And but he totally disowned before Watchmen.
Oh, yeah.
So he was like, I wanted nothing to do with this. So this is like a bit of a step in the.
It's a step up from totally disowning it.
Yeah. Frank Miller was that? No. Alan Moore. Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Well, one of the big questions I always get, or that I hear a lot when we see this particular series, because it's Watchmen, and the big dog in the Watchmen universe is Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Big dog in the DC universe, Superman. So I'll ask you guys, Superman versus Dr. Manhattan. Who takes it?
Wow. Oh God.
I really love Superman, but he would get annihilated by Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
There's just
Probably, yeah.
All right. I always ask guys, why do you think that when everything that Dr. Manhattan could possibly do against Superman, other guys have tried and they've all failed? People have tried to disintegrate him, never worked. They've tried to wipe him from reality, he comes back. The personification of death tried to destroy him, couldn't do it. So what's special about Dr. Manhattan that somehow he's going to do it better than what these guys have all tried and failed?
I think a lot of it has to do probably with his personality, his logic, the fact that a lot of Dr. Manhattan is he makes his decisions very cold, very calculated, and Superman, especially for example, just as recent as the Action Comics, his spoiler alert, his dad, was already trying to talk him into getting out of Earth and letting Earth just fall, but Superman, just by emotion, just by being a real American and having just some passion for Earth, some compassion, he just said that no, I'll stay here, I'll stay here, protect Earth, protect my country, protect my land, but so it's he doesn't really think too logically through, For the case of Dr. Manhattan, it's he could just as easily convince Superman he totally break him down mentally.
Yeah.
He could break him down mentally.
I was thinking about it. I was actually considering.
Even though that's what happened to Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen, that he was the one broken down mentally, that he was the guy, I mean, one of the things I usually put to people, Dr. Manhattan has never shown that he can take a punch. In his universe, he's the only superpowered being. And when he got confronted with something that he couldn't handle, he ran away to Mars in order to go deal it, to take it out.
That is true.
So, I understand he's the big dog in his universe, but he's the only big dog in his universe. So I'm always surprised when I hear, Dr. Manhattan has to take it, and I'm always wondering where that comes from at the end of the day. Is it just, he's a fan favorite character, he's very easy to get into, and Superman looks like, Superman wins too much. Maybe Superman deserves it. Let him get beaten this one right over here. Let him see how it feels.
No, I mean, I got crushed when I first found out about his death back in '93. When I first heard about that arc and all that stuff going on, I was like, no way, this can't happen. But if Dr. Manhattan's capable of killing Rorschach, just to be able to killing one of his own people, just to keep a secret, just to keep the world in order, I think that he'd be able to he should be able to have no problems, trying to sort of push Superman to that brink, to that limit that where he might just fail, where Superman just might fail, even if he comes back, which which
is going to happen.
Magical world of
Of course, but even if he does come back, it would just be a very poignant moment for the character of Superman himself. Because it's everyone hates, everyone that I seem to come across with, they always knock on Superman. Very rarely, do I find someone that likes him, and I'm always like, come on, man, it's Superman. He's great.
He's too OP. He's too OP.
But yeah, no, he's too overpowered, all that stuff, and it's just
I've never understood that. It's like saying a firefighter has too much water.
Yeah. Yeah, what's wrong with that? And he's supposed to be the thing we should strive for. That's the guy that we should all try to be. And so,
the hell with that. Embrace your flaws and be flawed at the end of the day. Well, hey, great talking with you guys. Thanks again. I'm running on Americano. I don't know how you guys are staying up, but hopefully, I'm really hoping when we read these stories, it's worth the time that we came out. Okay, thanks
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's a
again.
pleasure, man. Thank you.
Okay, since
All right, so I'm here at Midtown Comics with Adam, and he's going to tell me how Dr. Manhattan can beat Superman. Go right ahead, Adam.
Okay, since Dr. Manhattan can manipulate atomic level substances or molecular substances, can't he just create himself into Superman?
Okay.
Basically make himself an identical, not a clone, but an identical version of Superman, because Superman tends to always get resurrected and he always comes back for anything. But if there's two versions of the same exact Superman, maybe if one of them gets killed off, maybe the other one won't come back.
Right, but the one that's not coming back is the guy who's not Superman.
You don't know who the Superman is not going to come back. He's identical to Superman.
See, he could be identical to Superman, I believe, up until the point of, even down to his DNA, but he's still not Superman.
That's the situation. That's what Dr. Manhattan's power is. He can actually become exactly Superman.
All right. See,
Not
but then he's beating Superman by being Superman.
Exactly.
Which means he couldn't do it without being Superman.
Exactly.
So Superman wins at the end of the day.
always.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for your time.